Hello everybody, my name is Michael and I want to welcome you to Sovereign Gaming in Life Sims, the YouTube channel where I build worlds, lots, and share my thoughts on video games in the life simulation gaming space. Today we are finally doing the Midtown edit episode, and this is the episode where I'm going to go back to all of the lots that we have been working on for the Midtown neighborhood, and I'm just going to be giving them a final polish here and there. So I'm very excited to actually kind of get into this because I have just been talking about like some sort of an edit episode since doing all the Midtown lots. And for those of you new here, like the way that I work when it comes to these different lot builds is that I pretty much build out the lot and then I go back at a later time to edit out the entire neighborhood. And that is a pattern that I am going to continue to follow here as I continue building out my SimCity project. Now, right now we are starting from the reverse order in a way, and then we're going to work our way clockwise. So we're going to start with the Bordel's Bistro, and then we are going to end off with the family condo build. Now, today in this episode, I was building out this pergola structure, and for some reason I overbuilt this lot, so immediately I went about to destroying it. And honestly, when I was editing this lot here, I decided to just keep things simple for me. Sometimes simpler is the best way to go, and that is exactly what I had decided to do for Bordel's Bistro here, is just to keep things very simple. So I'm keeping the fountain because I think it looks nice, but I'm just kind of adding some extra planters from the Island Paradise expansion pack just in the corners there, just to again give it that intrigue and to make it at least feel lush and very nice to actually eat outside at, because this particular patio just kind of backs out onto an alleyway. Speaking of which, I have gone ahead and I have actually downloaded some objects outside of the Sims 3 store, which is pretty much a first for me at this point. I like to keep my game as clean as possible, and I know that when players start downloading from outside of the Sims 3 store, or just downloading in general, that it's a very slippery slope. And yes, I do have quite a bit of Sims 3 store items in here, but they just really weren't matching what I needed to convey here. And the objects that I have downloaded are some graffiti objects here and there, and also some garbage and crates objects as well. I really just needed to grunge up SimCity a little more, and just to make it feel more like an active urban space as opposed to a really clean cut city. So that was the goals with downloading that, and I think I held myself back well enough. I also downloaded some extra windows, so yeah, that slippery slope is certainly something that is predominant, and even the best fall for it. And I don't necessarily consider myself the best, but I'm pretty good at being very conservative with the amount of downloads that end up in my game. And I feel like even though I did kind of download some extra stuff here and there that you guys will see in some sort of a future episode, that the grunge that I was going for in terms of adding more graffiti and also some more garbage and just kind of dirtying things up just a little bit, I think that those objects were tastefully acquired and I didn't go overboard with it. So I'm very happy with the objects that I got, and the best news of all is that the performance of my game hasn't been affected so far. So yeah, very happy with the way that it goes out, and you guys are going to see it throughout the episode. Let's head over now to the Midtown edits of Cozy Brews, which is the coffee house lot that I had built and have really like embraced the coffee house name of it and all. I have made a whole episode pretty much over talking on how the coffee house lot classification doesn't really make too much sense to me, but it's the area where you can have performers start out their performer careers from the Showtime expansion pack, and they can get gigs at this place. So that's pretty much the gist of it. And again, if you want to check out the full build of the episode, you can always look on my channel and just kind of look for the thumbnail that I have got appearing on screen. But anyways, one of the edits that I really wanted to make here was I wanted to add in the windows to the fire escapes, because right now the landings on each of the fire escape stairs kind of leads nowhere, and it kind of makes these fire escapes a little pointless. So one issue that I've kind of had with this building when doing the windows and all that is just the issue of asymmetry on the eastern side of the walls. So unfortunately, I just decided to compromise and I guess embrace the asymmetry of it and all that, and I just kind of placed a window a space away from another window, which is not something that I really wanted to do. I like the idea of a staggered set of windows, just kind of climbing the top of the building with a window at each platform, but I really wasn't able to do that on the eastern wall, so I just kind of had to make do with the design that I had there. I'm not necessarily angry at it, but it is certainly a point of imperfection within this build that I am willing to let go, because I would rather have the window on the platform of the staircase on that eastern wall. Speaking of which, I decided to change the windows just to make them slightly different from the rest, because I've got these windows staggered on each of the fire escape landings there. It kind of draws the eye to the attention of those windows, so I just wanted to make them slightly different, slightly a little less uniform than the other windows within the actual coffee house here. Now, if you notice that I actually skipped the investment condo edits, you are actually correct. And that's because, you know, upon rewatching the episode and even hearing out my commentary and all that, I had decided that I really didn't want to make any edits for that investment condo build that I had done. So yeah, even though I mentioned that I was going to do some things, I went back to the lot, I really looked at things again, and I just decided that I didn't need to do anything more on it. So I decided to, you know, just walk away from it and just leave it as it is. I felt that it was perfectly fine upon like my second or third viewing of it, and actually going back to it in game really solidified that decision for me. So I'm not doing any edits for the investment condo, and that's something that's kind of rare for me because I'm always editing my work here and there. Maybe I'm overly critical of it, but who knows? I'll kind of have to see if that is the case, if I'm doing more neighborhood builds and they just seem to be and if I like go back on saying I'll edit something, I'll just kind of make note of that and see if that's a pattern where I'm just being overly critical. Anyways, one of the biggest edits that I needed to make for Cozy Brews is I decided to actually make it a seasonal lot where I'm only going to make the patio space available during spring, summer, and fall. Even though I've only got 7 days of winter in my game with the seasonal options and all that, I decided that it would be worth it to go the extra effort for this lot build and to actually make it seasonal for those different seasons there. I don't do it in the next edit, which is All Stars and Cowboys, but I definitely decided to do it here because it was simple enough. When it comes to using the seasonal lot marker, it really does benefit for the builder to know whether or not they're going to make their lot seasonal beforehand, before even kind of messing around with it. And because you can really kind of get lost in everything when you're using the seasonal lot marker. I actually ran into a really weird issue where it spawned a bunch of extra columns in that outdoor patio space that didn't need to be there. So I had to end up deleting them and then replacing them for the different seasonal lots. So it was like a weird little behavior there that you know, that wouldn't have occurred if I didn't decide to make it a seasonal lot. So yeah, it's like weird behaviors like that you really have to watch out and look out for it. And to be honest, like I almost didn't catch that little, I guess it's a bug then. I didn't really catch that bug until I was about to save and exit during my build time with Cozy Brews. So yeah, I really glad I caught that. I readjusted the columns, I had to redo the lights, which is just a little bit tedious, but whatever. If that was the only issue that I ran into when messing around with the seasonal lot marker after I had done all of this building, then I'll take that problem because I was really able to solve it very easily. So yeah, continuing off, like I'm using again the custom content that I downloaded from outside of the Sims 3 store. I'm kind of contemplating just making like a little bit of a document within the Sims file share, just to kind of share with you guys some of the objects that I have downloaded from outside of the store. So feel free to let me know if that is something that you guys would be interested in acquiring. So yeah, I'll definitely take that into consideration going forward. Right now, it's very easy to track down everything that I've used because I haven't gone crazy with all of the downloading, and I hope to keep it that way. But yeah, Cozy Brews ended up getting the edits that it needed, and I feel like it is a finished lot. I knew immediately after building the All-Stars and Cowboys sports bar that the edits that I would need to make here would be very simple and very easy to do. First and foremost, I don't know how any of my Texan viewers allowed me to get away with basing a bar out of Texas and not adding in a pair of Longhorns on the wall. So I do apologize for not finding that within the object catalog. And I really don't know how I managed to get away with that. So I kind of feel like I got away with murder here. But Longhorns are back, and they are on several walls within this bar because I did base this bar out of Texas, just kind of based on a trip that I made, and I really enjoyed that experience there. So Longhorns are now on the wall, which is great for everyone. To edit the outdoor space, when I was building this lot, I kind of got this lot confused with sports parties that you could host in The Sims 2. I've been pretty much a lifelong Sims player, so you know, it was easy for me to kind of mix it up. So just to kind of extend out the outdoor space, I decided to add in more beer pong tables, and I also decided to add in the horseshoe throwing activity from Seasons. I pretty much wanted the outdoor space to feel like a proper tailgating party, except it appears on the roof. And maybe I could have like leaned into those themes a little stronger there, but at the end of the edit episode for All Stars and Cowboys, I feel like it's a pretty polished lot build at this point. Now, I decided not to make this one seasonal because, like I was mentioning before, when you mess around with the seasonal marker after you've done a build, it can sometimes like lead to a lot of bugs and glitches, I suppose. And that can really lead the builder to actually having to redo the entire lot. I've done that in the past, and maybe it's more of a user error than an actual game glitch or bug. But you know, when messing around with the seasonal markers, personally, I like to, you know, decide right off the bat whether I'm going to be making a lot seasonal or not, because that common season that you have to set it to for all of the objects that appear throughout all of the seasons, and you know, changing it to a different season, like if you don't know what you want to say consistent, it can really mess things up a lot. But yeah, that was why I decided not to use the seasonal lot marker here. I've got several of those heat lamps that are out there, and even though it doesn't do anything for warming Sims up, I did try to like recolor the lighting as a flame, and you know, if they did heat Sims up, I mean, this would heat up people in real life, so I don't feel so bad for doing that. And lastly, I also did decide to change the wallpaper from the back of the wall, and I decided to just keep it on the photo booth. I just changed the colors a little bit on the photo booth curtain wall there. Oh, sorry, not curtain wall, but just on the photo booth curtain, I changed the color just a little bit, and it looked nice enough to just kind of get away with as one of those like little ugly patterns that you sometimes see. I really wanted to keep the pattern because it's such a niche pattern, and I know I really wouldn't find another opportunity to use it, or, unless of course I prove myself wrong. But I decided to keep it on the photo booth. I feel like it's not in such a predominant place that it would be offensive to anyone. But yeah, this lot feels polished, so we're on to the next. Like All Stars and Cowboys, the Saturn lot build that I had done really just needed some minor edits here and there in order for me to like really consider it a finished lot. And right off the bat, the first thing that I really wanted to do with Saturn was add in some lighting on the ground floor where the club goers would enter from and then take the elevators up to the club levels. So that was the first thing on my list because for some reason I decided not to light that ground level there. Now it isn't completely unlit, but it's not lit enough for me, for my liking, and for what I really wanted to convey for that entrance there. So I decided to light the ground level there like I promised I would. So another thing that I decided to do, and I talked about it in the actual episode itself, was I wanted to add in a separate entrance in the mid-rise set dressing structure. So I added in that separate entrance just to kind of show that this might be the entrance that the residents would take in order to get to their apartment units on some of the higher floors there, whereas the commercial entrance or the office entrance is directly on Crumple Bottom Avenue there, which is the which is the southwards avenue that the lot is facing. So that is what I had decided to do with that, just to kind of add a little more intrigue and just to like kind of show that there is a little more activity on some of the other streets that we really aren't focusing on. So yeah, I decided to do that. And by the way, the entrance for this separate entrance in that mid-rise condo is actually on Main Street there. So it is actually a pretty important street to just kind of take into consideration. And I have decided to extend the Main Street name throughout the entirety of its length all the way down to Blue Water Village, terminating at that highway. So, you know, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent there, but that was what I wanted to do. Another thing that I decided to edit directly on the dance floor level is I decided to take out the gates and to just create a wall and just to create some glass windows around that tree from, oh goodness, from that world based on Mars that they released in the Sims 3 store world. So completely forget what it was called again, but I decided to add in a glass windows and just to kind of case it in there, because I feel like if you're drinking and out and all that, you could fall into the pit and nobody wants that. And even though that cannot happen in game, it could happen in real life. And so I decided to block it off just kind of for those safety precautions there. Another thing that I did was I decided to add in some champagne in the VIP room, just again to drive home that this is a VIP room and not your standard place to kind of party for the rest of the Sims. However you guys wanted to find your VIP rooms is how it goes along. And then lastly, I decided to kind of make the entrance like the queue and the club line, just to kind of beef it up just a little bit with some floor lights that just kind of lead to the entrance of the actual club. So that is pretty much all the edits there. Again, I did grunge up the alleyway just a tiny bit with Saturn, just to kind of continue that same theme for the different alleyways there. And that pretty much about does it for all of the edits with Saturn. Let's move on now to our next nightclub set of edits. When thinking about it, pretty much all of the nightclub edits are very small and minimal details that I just needed to add in order to give them that final polish. And the case is no different with the 13th floor, which is the Vampire Lounge. In fact, I don't even go into the club because I feel like the club layout itself is actually pretty great as it is. So the very first thing that I do is I change out the shelf in the freezer of the diner there. And the reason why I do that is because that particular rack that I had originally will sometimes promote stuff that's on sale if you place anything on it, I think, if I remember that correctly. I'm not too sure if I do, but I wasn't even sure of that myself, but I've seen that pop up happen in other games, not necessarily through my playtesting and anything like that. So I just decided to be safe than sorry, and I decided to delete that rack and to replace it with some shelves, and just to place that's the standard food that I place on those kind of shelves for these storage areas. So change that up. Also, in the 13th floor episode, I completely forgot to put menus, and so I decided to add in the menus for this lot so that it is actually, so that the diner can actually function properly. So yeah, apologize for that, but at the same time, I am fixing that mistake here. So I decided to spread out some of the menus on the countertops there, because honestly, this is a huge diner for the space that it occupies and for the way that Sims behave in the game. It's a little overbuilt, I will say that, and I kind of like the form that it took, so I really wasn't too concerned about the actual scale of it. And then lastly, one of the things that I had decided to do was I decided to change the green space. I just kind of had a tree sitting in the middle there. And yeah, there's not a whole lot of green space within Midtown. And that's kind of done on purpose. We've got all of that green space just north of the central business district. So this is obviously a lot more of a denser neighborhood. I'm really trying to capture the urban density parts of Sim City here. And even though I am trying to scale down the height and all of that, I still need to pick and choose certain corners to bring to life some of those urban elements. And urban elements do include green spaces, and so I just decided to redo the green space. And I wanted it to be slightly more grungy. And that's something about Midtown, is that I really downloaded those extra objects to put them in the alleyways to just give it a little more grit. I don't want Midtown to be ghetto per se, like I don't want it to be like a rundown area, but I do want to give it some more grit to it and just to give it that little more urban edge to it. And I feel like this park kind of captures it just with that fairy statue and with the greenery that just kind of surrounds it. It looks unkept, but it also looks intentional at the same time, like grit on purpose kind of thing. And that's really what I liked about it. I do play around with some of the truck parking areas, but it just didn't really work out, so I just kept it as is. So admittedly, the bulk of today's episode really centers around the Gast District. So the Gast District, as I had originally built it out, was supposed to pay tribute to the Sims 1's Gast District, and I've even got the lore and the description of this lot to just kind of match it and tell the story as to how it evolved and came to be the way it exists now in SimCity. But with that aside, when I was looking at the Gast District, and something that I didn't even notice when recording the audio for it, is that there was a lot of potential within the office structure itself that I really needed to explore. Now, the Gast District is classified as a stylist lot type that came with the Ambitions expansion pack, and there was a lot of energy that was focused on the set dressing part of it, which is really where the runway kind of shows up, and it's also where the mid-rise structure just kind of hangs out at. It's that part of the build really served more as that set dressing that just tries to explain it just a little more as to why this is a stylist, as to why this lot has a stylist classification to it. But anyways, I really lost the plot in a little bit when it came to actually designing the office parts of it. Now, the original vision for the office, which I'm still maintaining, is that this is essentially like a magazine office where the styles and trends and, anything intellectually fashion starts here, and it pretty much sets the trend and the styles at this very office, and everybody else in SimCity just kind of follows suit with it. The inspirations for it came from that new Cruella movie, which again, I never really watched the trailer for, but I just saw like previews and I was like, okay, this is interesting. So that was part of the inspirations for it. And then there was also a lot of inspiration, I should admit, from Devil Wears Prada, which was a movie I was forced to watch it years ago, but I'm not getting into that story. But I did like the idea of this fashion office, something very uptight in that kind of sense. But yeah, I was really losing a lot of storytelling in terms of the functions of it. And so in today's edit episode, I'm really trying to share what that story might look like. So it really starts with the fact that I downloaded some new blinds from the Sims 3 store. It came with the Cambodian set pack, and it came with these awesome blinds that I may or may not have overused throughout the entire edit episode here, but I don't apologize for them because they really look like wooden shutters, which is what I was going for originally in terms of a look for where I had originally placed those shelves. So I decided to replace those with the blinds that came with the Cambodian set, and I am absolutely in love with them. So so I can see myself really overusing those particular blinds that look like shutters in pretty much every build going forward. So yeah, I used them here, I love them, and then I just continued using them for pretty much everything. I really wanted like those natural wood elements to just kind of appear here and there within this office space, just to kind of warm it up a little bit, because it can feel a little sterile, which is what I was going for, but I just wanted to warm it up with some wood elements here and there, and those blinds honestly do a lot of the heavy lifting for me, and they look pretty awesome. So yeah, back in the gas district episode, I kind of lamented on me not actually offering bathroom services or bathrooms on the office floor, so I ended up adding in that function to the actual office, so you are very welcome. I decided not to think too hard on what the designs of the bathrooms should be, so I decided to just pretty much copy and paste the bathrooms that I had within the set dressing part of the lot and just paste them over into the office tower, just to give employees of the fashion office a place to actually use the bathroom. I mean, I'm working with 3 levels of space within the late night shell that I'm using, so it's like the fact that I missed a bathroom in here is kind of pathetic. But anyways, it led to the opportunity of the creation of a proper break room as well, which is something that I was very excited to actually do. It just kind of makes it a little more realistic, and it also gives your stylist sims like a place to actually rest and relax, I guess. I mean, I even added in one of those vending machines, which is something that I need to do better at, because vending machines are pretty awesome, and they came with the University Life expansion pack, and I wish I've been adding more of those in here and there, but you know, that is something I'll just have to do better on going forward with my builds. But yeah, Sims can now actually use the bathrooms on the office levels, and that was something that I was very excited about. Another thing that I did was in order to like fit in that break room, I had to completely take out the I guess they would be the stylist designer's office from there, and I decided to separate those out and make them into 2 separate offices on the 3rd level, which is adjacent to like the head of the magazine's office or the CEO's office and whatnot. So that was something that I had decided to actually do in terms of the form. But what's really awesome about the different changes that I had decided to make was I decided to add in more of a prototyping room. And this prototyping room is pretty awesome because I decided to use the towel objects from the outdoor living stuff pack, which is a stuff pack that I absolutely swear by. I think it is probably the best in my opinion, and they come with some shelves that have these towels all rolled up, and so I decided to reinterpret those as different kinds of fabrics. So that's really where I was going with all of that, was just kind of trying to reinterpret those as fabrics. And within that prototyping room, I envisioned that after you've got everything designed, after you've consulted with the graphic designers and all of that, and it's got all the approvals within the workflow process that it needs to get approved by, you would eventually prototype a design within this room where the actual materials would be selected, and the seamstresses would actually sew up a prototype before getting it mass produced. And that mass production would probably take place either on, I guess, some of the lower levels, or they would be outsourced to someone else to mass produce it. But anyways, that was kind of the idea with this prototyping room, was to just tell the story of how a garment goes from concept to creation. And I really wanted to show that the creation part of it can actually add something tangible. And that's why I've tried to make those different dress stands actually match the fabrics that I placed on the actual table itself. So really happy with that vision there and how it kind of came about. The reason why I decided to give the CEO office its own upgrade is because, well, it kind of didn't make sense to have the prototyping workshop open air, and I needed to have it covered. And in order to do that, I needed to add some walls. And so I was just, I was kind of out of ideas. So I was like, okay, what if the CEO of this fashion magazine or of the fashion industry in SimCity, I should say, is so rich and powerful that they can get their own private bathroom. So that's what I ended up doing with the CEO office. Is I ended up creating this hallway that gives them a private bathroom situation. And then I also decided to kind of take it further, because I would imagine that the CEO of a fashion firm would also kind of want to watch their creations closely and to watch their employees closely. Again, I'm imagining that it's as uptight as the Devil Wears Prada movie depicted it as. And so I would, again, imagine that the CEO would just want quick access to what's going on in their office. And even though they're on the 3rd floor, I had decided that I really wanted to give them like a walk down to the prototyping workshop there. So it's also another like point where it sort of takes that inspiration from that new Cruella movie, whatever it's called, because what's her name actually like has her office like on the upper level, and she can look down on her designers and seamstresses. And so I kind of wanted to reimagine it here in a way, even though like stylistically they don't like, I don't take any inspiration of that at all, but functionally I absolutely do. And so that was just like a moment I really wanted to sort of create for players here. The only regret that I have with the prototyping workshop is that I didn't add in those specific shelves with the fashion fabrics rolled up all the way up to the 2nd wall there, because it's pretty much 2 floors high. And so I could have just filled up the 2nd wall there with more fashion fabrics. And that is something that I am going to do. I'm not going to do an edit on an edit. I'm just going to add that in off screen. I'm going to add that in yeah, outside of this video. But that kind of brings me on to my next point here, is that all of the lots here for the Midtown are going to be re-uploaded to the Sims file share. I'm going to pin that link in a comment. It's always in my description box, but I'm going to pin it in a comment to this video, and it's going to include all of the updated lots for the Midtown lots, and it's going to include all of the edits that you guys are seeing in this episode here. So yeah, those updates are on the way. Of course, it's going to have to include the custom content that I had to download for the graffiti and the garbage bags and the pallets and all of that. But it would just be really way too time consuming for me to like redo these lots as vanilla friendly. So I'm just not going to be making that decision, because that is just way too much time wasted, and this is already a huge project, and honestly I just don't know where I'd find the time, if I'm going to be quite frank with you. But anyways, when I upload this lot, it'll be the one where I continue the fabric shelves all the way to the 2nd floor wall there, reaching to that ceiling. So you can expect that when you actually download it, that it's something that just simply gets added in here. But yeah, the prototyping workshop is certainly something that is obviously a highlight here. I just feel like it tells the story of a fashion a fashion workflow product, like assembly line. That's the word I was looking for. It tells a story of a fashion assembly line from concept to prototype and then to like finish and all that. So really love that I am getting that kind of storytelling inputted into this particular lot here. So yeah, when I reviewed the Gas District episode, I did mention that I was going to do something about the Gangway metal floors. Oh my god, why am I losing my words? Sorry about this, you guys. I mentioned something about working on the space above the runway in the set dressing part of this build, just to add in some more gangways or something, just to kind of give like a rafter feel to the space above the actual runway itself. And I've actually decided against it. I feel like the work that I've got there right now is reflective of something that is realistic in a sense. Like it's not modeled after anything, so maybe realistic isn't the right word, but I feel like it conveys what it needs to convey in order to show that there is like a backstage space that exists over the actual runway itself. And again, that's really to tell the story that this is an event space that is obviously being used for a fashion show right now, but it can be reused and repurposed into whatever kind of events that the hotel would like to host. It's kind of like a mini expo center in that kind of sense. So I decided not to do any additional work on the backstage portions of this lot because I just feel like it really wasn't something that needed to be done. Maybe I had more of a vision of it when I was actually recording the episode, and when I was recording the episode, maybe I had like some sort of an idea there, but the idea is totally lost on me, and I feel like I would just be I just feel like I'd be overthinking it at this point. So I'm not doing any more work on the offstage stuff, or sorry, the backstage areas. But yeah, back to the office at hand here. I like the way that it functions a lot more. Like I mentioned earlier, there's actual bathrooms there. So if you have a stylist sim that is working within this office space, they actually have a place to use the bathroom. They can get a little something to eat from the fridge. There's also the vending machine now, so you can take care of your needs. And within the CEO office, I even added in a bathtub just to like really drive home that this is a super luxurious place where the CEO gets so many perks and they're very wealthy. So yeah, you can even have a bath if you have a stylist sim that's just working overtime. The only thing you just really can't do is sleep, but I guess you can make your sim have a nap if you really wanted to work them overtime like that. So there's always that. And of course, with the drafting tables that I've got down, which is used by sims that work in the stylist profession, you can obviously do everything that you need to do for the profession to actually work your way up the ladder and all of that. So overall, I am so much happier with the guest district as a build. I love the set dressing pieces with the runway and everything that I did. Like, I think I was very successful with that in the actual build episode, and now that I've got a chance to really edit it and look at it with a fresh pair of eyes, I feel like I've just really taken the office portion of it to the next level, and to the level that it needs to really be a good tribute, in my opinion, to what the Sims 1 Superstar was bringing to us way back when. So very happy that it all came to be, and yeah, let's move on now to something else. Okay, let's tackle another hideous eyesore of the Midtown neighborhood, and that is the mid-rise structure that is attached to this family condo. Now, this was something that I wholeheartedly admitted in the build episode itself, in that the mid-rise structure was just not doing it. It looked ugly, it looked bad, it looked terrible. So, you know, honestly, like, even though I really wanted to add some sort of element of balconies to this mid-rise structure, I decided, you know, I just got to keep it simple. And so simplicity wins once again. And so I deleted an extra Roaring Heights skyscraper object, and I decided to make the other one just kind of face in a little bit, just to sort of match the Roaring Heights skyscraper object just right next to it from the Midtown Grocer, which again was another build that I did a long time ago. And so yeah, I decided to make those changes. I decided to completely get rid of the balconies. I know there's some great inspirations out there, specifically Teddy, who is another Sims 3 builder, does some really wonderful things with brick buildings and balconies and those kind of like urban style builds. So that was like, I'll keep her in mind for when I am looking for inspiration for when I want to add balconies to something. But today is not that day. Today I'm keeping it simple, and I'm just going to actually let the form of the Roaring Heights skyscraper object influence most of what I wanted to do. So I decided to change the color. I feel like the black and the darks is just really not doing it right for me. And I really wanted it to match the Roaring Heights object skyscraper object from the Midtown grocer next door, because when you look at it from a skyline perspective, it looks like one is taller than the other and they kind of mirror each other, and I really like that look. So that's exactly what I had decided to actually do and accomplish, and so I accomplished that. I don't feel like the mid-rise structure is something that is, you know, hitting a home run here. I feel like the mid-rise structure went from a 1 out of 10 to a 7 out of 10, and you know what, honestly, I'm gonna be okay with that. And because it's like caused me so much frustration, I decided not to do anything spectacular on the ground floor. On the ground floor that faces the sidewalk directly. So I just really wanted to get it over with, get it done with, and just move on from there, taking the lessons I've learned from it with me as I continue to build out more of my urban neighborhoods. And honestly, like, even though I'm talking down on it and it sounds like it's coming from a place of frustration, I genuinely like the way it looks. So there's that. Alrighty. Other than that, like, I only did a few minor changes to the family condo. In the living room part, I moved the pet toys basket and I put in a large pet bed. And the reason for that is that I really wanted to encourage pet gameplay within an urban dense setting like this. And because I could fit in a large pet bed, I decided to do just that in case, you know, players want to put in a family or whatever kind of a household in here with a large dog. They absolutely could, and it would be something that the dog can comfortably kind of function within. So that is where the large pet bed comes from. And outside of that, I was just like making some really minor changes. I was matching some of the subway brick floors to the floors of some of the showers there, just to try to make it look a little more continuous. And I did screw up at one point in the laundry room there, but don't worry. When I upload this lot along with everything else that I'm doing, which will be uploaded by the time you guys see this episode, like, those fixes will be made because it is on my list of things to do. And I'm not about to film an edit on an edit episode. I'm not about to refilm another edit episode down the line unless I need to do some sort of thing here. Anyways, so that's really about it for the condo build. I just added in, I just had to fix the mid-rise and then do a few very minor details for some of the unit itself. And so yeah, we are finished Midtown, ladies and gentlemen, and honestly, it is a great neighborhood. I love that it's a little more, it's got a little more grit to it. It's not overly grungy, but it does feel a little more realistic in terms of it having that true city grit that downtown neighborhoods tend to have. And yeah, very happy with the way that the Midtown neighborhood turns out. Like, the skyline just looks so phenomenal. And when I start doing the, and you'll see in a bit here that the tours for the condo edits that I've done will just transition into like a bunch of skyline shots, because I really want to leave you guys with the skyline just as it is. And that kind of brings me on to an announcement here, in that I'm going to be taking a break from YouTube. My summer, as you will have noticed, like from my community tab, my summer has just been absolutely insane. Every day has literally been jam-packed with stuff, and I'm honestly like barely able to get this episode out to you guys in time here. So, you know, it's a sign to just kind of take a break, and that is exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm about to start school. For those of you that are just tuning in, I'm starting an architectural technologist program here, and I don't know what that's going to do to my availability to continue to produce videos and everything. And seeing as how this is just a really fun hobby for me at this time, and you know, I've really been enjoying the progress and everything here. I've got to prioritize my school. I mean, like, part of why I've came on here and have been like so gung-ho with my YouTube channel, I suppose, is that, you know, I got laid off and I need to put my life back together again. I don't mean to get too personal here, but that is really the case that it's going to be. And so in order to do that, I do have to prioritize other things outside of the YouTube channel. And this summer has taught me just about that. These are all good problems to have, though. So don't worry about me there. But yeah, when I do come back, the next neighborhood that we're going to be working on is the Far East Square neighborhood. And so that is the neighborhood that that lies directly west of Midtown. It's this, right now, from the looks of things, it's a huge empty gap in the city. And we really just need to work on it. It'll help me kind of get into different architectural styles outside of the tried and true urban form that I have been working with. And I think that it'll help to break up the urban neighborhoods in a really refreshing way. It'll keep things nice and fresh because we're gonna actually get a little more cultural with the references going forward. And the next build that I have to do within the Far East neighborhood is going to be a fusion lounge, and it has to be something that anchors the Far East neighborhood in a way that is very bold, but at the same time something that is, you know, very suiting for a cultural neighborhood that you would find within an urban setting. And it's very complicated too for the vision that I do want to execute on. But, you know, I'll tease that a little more as I am getting closer to releasing the episode for that. It might even be a build that requires several episodes, much like the Goth Manor one did. So it might be a multi-episode situation going forward there. But I'll just kind of have to see how it is going forward. And with me taking a break, like, that will obviously change the schedule that I will put out for videos. And, you know, I'm taking that break starting right now. So for the month of September, I'm going to be pretty quiet there, but I will certainly look to get back to things in October once the dust has settled and I figured out what I am doing and how much time I can actually dedicate to YouTube. I just don't want to say anything right now and then have to change it later on. So I'm just kind of keeping it open and just figuring out how I'm going to be able to manage my time, keeping up the channel here, and yeah, and working with my new life and kind of figuring out what how that all comes about. I have to let those chips fall and I have to see where they land before I'm able to like really promise anything at this point. And seeing as how this is just like a happy, enjoyable hobby for me, well, I'm gonna have to just allow it to take a backseat in terms of my priorities. And like I mentioned before, it's a very good thing. If the tours aren't already playing, then feel free to stick around for those. And if you've enjoyed this video, if you've enjoyed this series and you want to keep up with my work in this project with SimCity, then feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe and do all that stuff. I just want to thank you guys again for coming along this journey with me and for watching. And I'll see you guys again in the next one. But for the moment, please, please enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you again for watching. Have a good one there.